So we're back, Michael. Just wanted to get just any final thoughts on metaverse before I move on to a couple more topics.
Yeah, you touched on it as well. The younger generation, like anybody who thinks the metaverse sounds ridiculous, it just isn't in touch with the younger generation. Like my kids spend hours making their characters look in like just a certain way. It's part of the game itself. And then beyond that, though, like these games and these kids are sophisticated, right? So now we homeschool, so I tend to think like we get a little bit of credit for this, but my son and I were watching his older brother's basketball practice. He's 9, almost 10, and we're talking about a video game because I want to show him I'm interested in what he's interested in. And he was explaining to me that he's got a business that operates inside of this video game
Wow.
and it makes money. But the problem is there's a lot of inflation because anybody can increase the money supply at will. And so it drives prices up. And I stopped. I was like, am I dreaming this? Is this real? Because this seems very surreal right now that my son just said that to me at 9 years old.
Wow.
And I asked him some questions. It was very clear that he understood. So now I think if we extrapolate that kind of thinking and realizing that these kids are they've got access to the world's knowledge, at their fingertips. We didn't grow up with that. They got an advantage over us in that regards, but they're not simple, and they're not dumb, and they are grasping these concepts. It's a big part of their life. I see a future in which we've got worlds like Decentraland that have operating businesses inside of them that people pay to go visit those businesses. And then from there, I see us having a stock market inside of Decentraland that trades in those businesses that operate, because we're going to see a replication of the real world in the digital world. And it may be silly, but I do think it's actually important because automation is going to replace a lot of current jobs. We're going to have this transition. We need to find a new world, new way to make money in a new world where things are just getting more and more automated. And, we got to figure things out. So, last thoughts on that.
Those are fantastic. I mean, I'm blown away that your son at 9 or 10 years old probably has a better financial education than we had at 30, 35 after running businesses. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. And what's more interesting, I'd say, is that, this whole concept of a open or closed metaverse. And obviously,
Yeah.
Facebook gave us the biggest piece of free press for the entire crypto industry when they renamed their company Meta. So now people
Yeah.
know. Obviously, Mark's a very smart guy, and to actually make that shift in such a massive global company means that he knows where this is going. But
Yeah.
clearly, they're a Web 2.0 phenomenon. They want to control this future metaverse, and we could talk about how dangerous that gets. I mean, I had a guest on recently that said, when they change your news feed in Facebook, they could literally make people more angry or more sad based on the
Absolutely.
titles. Now, imagine you're in a 360-degree metaverse and there's maybe there's just horns honking in the background, not to mention whatever else. I mean, it's not necessarily something you want a company to control, which is why my guests are constantly lobbying for an open metaverse, which means your son will be able to take the assets of that video game and move them to another video game and move them
Yes.
to another video game. And that's what makes the NFT exciting. Again, gaming companies have been these closed metaverses for a long time.
Yeah.
There's people that used to, I think, sell their gaming identities on
Yep.
eBay, and you could log in and get their points and their shields and stuff.
Yeah.
And so the future is where your son can transfer those assets and identity from game to reality. And man,
Yeah.
it's so exciting. And the education factor, man, that's an important piece.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we all
Absolutely.
like gaming too. Humans like games, and I don't consider myself a gamer, although I plugged myself into Axie Infinity a couple months ago and went through the
Yeah.
experience. But we all love games, and I think the metaverse is teaching us that as humans, that's what we engage with, and it's a great way to get us to learn. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
fantastic subject.